Welcome to the discussion for part 3, chapter 3. This is a really interesting chapter where we finally see a real meeting between Raskolnikov and his sister and mother. He's had a good night's sleep. He's feeling more himself. Zossimov is there when they enter the room, declaring that Rodya is like in better health than he's ever seen him. And in, a few more nights like this in a short time, he should be back to his normal self. He's made an effort also to really get cleaned up, to be really presentable and on his, best when meeting his sister and his mother. And he has this kind of like it's rehearsed, like he had thought over things that he wanted to say and like he's kind of checking them off a list, which it's interesting because his mom is so anxiety ridden about how he's doing, concerned about the delirium, concerned about how her meeting with him last night didn't go as she had planned. Like she hasn't seen him in 3 years. She had planned this very rapturous reunion and had received quite the opposite, where he seemed irritated. He wanted them to go away. He didn't seem happy to see them. And so she's just so grateful to be in his presence, to see him talking to her. And he's saying things that she wants to hear. But Dounia, and also to Dounia, but Dunia's looking at him and she's not deceived by just what he's saying. She's seeing him for who he is. She knows him very well. And she recognizes that these things that he's saying doesn't really seem heartfelt. They seem like he's reciting a lesson. Like he's like, oh yeah, what else did I want to tell you? Yes, I want to tell you that I'm really sorry for yesterday and I'm really happy that you're here. And he's just kind of like reciting these things that he had determined that he should say. Like what are they expecting him to say and what would a good son say, and he's going to say those things and check it off the list. And Dunia's like, he's saying the things but it doesn't seem like he's meaning the things. There is a point where he reaches out and grabs her hand and she notices that that is sincere and he really does love her. And then Zossimov leaves and they are alone. Nastasia's in the corner. She's always lurking. She's always like a busybody in the room. Um, and it finally gets down to the letter. And first he says he apologizes. He wants to apologize for the way that he spoke about Poytr Petrovich. But then he goes on to just repeat the same things about Poytr Petrovich, that he didn't like him, that he doesn't trust him. And his mom's like, this is exactly what you said yesterday. Like, how is this an apology for what you said yesterday when you're just repeating what you said? And they're like, well, I'm glad we're on this subject because we received a letter. And so they give the letter to Raskolnikov, and he's very quiet and just reading the letter carefully, reading the letter a second time. The mom's on pins and needles. Everybody on the room is kind of like on pins and needles because they're expecting this explosive reaction or some type of an angry reaction or some type of a large reaction. And that isn't how he responds. He just very carefully gives back the letter and he talks about how it doesn't seem like he's a very educated man. And Dunya's like, well, he doesn't claim to be an educated man. He's, very proud of the fact that he's a self-made man despite his education. She's kind of defending him, kind of offended by this course that Raskolnikov has taken. And Razumihin is like, well, I wouldn't say it's uneducated. It's just written very much like a legal document, which is kind of what I noticed when we first read it through. It seems like he's using a lot of legal language, which is in keeping with how he is viewing this marriage. This marriage is very much a legal contract. This is what he is doing. This is why his letter seems to contain this list of demands and this very legal type of language. And Raskolnikov is once again noticing this, that he is a businessman and he is approaching this marriage as a businessman. And that's what he's trying to make the point to Dounia, is that this is a business arrangement for him and she is being sold. and he doesn't like that she's being sold. And if this is what she's reduced herself to as a commodity, then he again is stating, I don't want to be known as your brother if that's who you are. Like, he's like, I'm already a scoundrel. Like, we don't need two scoundrels in the family. And if you're going to turn into one, then I'm going to remove myself from this familial situation. And, his mother's like, oh, you're not a scoundrel. And his sister is very offended because she's like, well, let me, put you straight. I am going into this eyes wide open. I do not feel like I'm selling myself. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me because I'm, bringing my state up. I'm marrying up, and that is my prerogative to do that. And I'm doing it because I think that he's a respectable man. And I think that I can, do my part of the bargain and give him what he's also asking for. I think he will be happy in this marriage and I will make it work. And Raskolnikov's just like, well, kind of agree to disagree. He's really, neither one of them is selling the other person on their viewpoint. And he doesn't even really believe what Dounia believes what she's saying. He thinks that she's saying this to save her, her pride, to look like, she's being called out for actually what is happening. And she's defending it because she doesn't want to admit that's what it is. And so he's like, well, what's going to happen? And Dounia says, I have decided that you must be there. We all need to be there. He's demanding that you not be there, but you must be there so that we can settle this once and for all. And his mother gets on board, and she says, before she was very nervous about this plan, and she's still nervous, but she understands that really the only way to solve this once and for all is to do what Dounia's saying. She's trusting Dounia, and she's like, yes, I agree. This is our family plan. As a family, we are deciding this, that you must be there, despite him telling us that you cannot be. And then Dounia turns to Razumihin and says, I'm also inviting you. I want you to be there as well. So it's very interesting. They feel very much like Razumihin is part of the family. They've told him this outright. And Raskolnikov is probably happy to hear this. This is probably what he wants, because he knows that this is the one thing that's going to derail the engagement. And he wants this engagement derailed. So it's an interesting pivotal chapter. I think it shows a lot about Dounia and Rodya's relationship, that they know each other very well. She notices things about him, even when he's saying something that isn't matching with how he's feeling. She can read his face, and he can do the same. The mother, I don't think, can. She doesn't know her children quite as well. She feels like a bit of an outsider to both of them, really. But it's clear that they know each other very well, and there is some unspoken words between them, with just the looks and the little comments that don't go unnoticed or ununderstood between the two. So I think it's a good chapter to really understand the relationship, and it's a pivotal chapter. So we will see what happens next. Meet me in part 3, chapter 4, and we will read on.